It's Sunday night. Your laptop is closed. Your week doesn't officially start until tomorrow morning, and you can already feel the conversation that you've been postponing sitting in your chest like a held breath. Two people on your team aren't getting along, and you've been managing around it for weeks. You've rearranged projects. You've had separate one-on-ones. You've translated between them in meetings, and it isn't working. If that's where you are right now, this video is exactly for you. I'm Dr. Kara. I work with managers, directors, and C-suite executives in moments where the people problem has become the problem. And here's the thing I want to put on the table right from the start. Conflict is not the problem. Conflict avoidance is. The teams I've watched fall apart didn't fall apart because they had too much conflict. They fell apart because the conflict went underground and stayed there. And the manager, well-meaning, kind, exhausted, kept hoping that if they just managed around it long enough, it would resolve on its own. It never does. Today, I'm going to walk you through what workplace conflict actually is underneath the surface and why managing around it costs more than facing it. Then I'm going to share 3 moves that turn the conversation you've been dreading into the most useful one you'll have this quarter. Let's start with what conflict actually is. I remember a moment when I dreaded a conversation that I had to have with one of my employees. They continued to send off emails that weren't accurate. They had typos, or if you read the response, you knew they didn't fully read the email that they were responding to. I felt really bad because I didn't want to call this person out. I did not want to appear to be non-supportive. But the reality was I wasn't supporting them if I wasn't going to have the conversation. You know the conversation that I'm talking about. The one that feels like a pit in your stomach because you know what you're about to say is likely going to get a response and you're not sure what that response is. Workplace conflict is really about the thing it looks like it's about. It looks like Anna and Marcus arguing about the project timeline. It's actually about whose authority gets to set the timeline. It looks like Paula being short with Jordan in meetings. It's actually about Paula feeling like Jordan got recognition for the work that she did. It looks like Sam pushing back on every decision that you make. It's actually about Sam wanting your job and not knowing how to say that out loud. If you're trying to resolve the surface, you're going to spend years not resolving anything. Conflict is the visible argument. The actual conflict is underneath. Every conflict on your team has 3 layers in this order. Layer 1, the content. That's what they say it's about. The deadline, the decision, the scope, the email. Layer 2, the process. That's about how decisions get made and who has a say, who got included, who got cut out, and whose voice carried. Layer 3, the identity. Now that's the deepest one. Who I am on this team. Am I respected? Am I valued? Am I safe? If you only address layer 1, the conflict comes back. Sometimes in 3 days, sometimes in 3 months. But you gotta know it's gonna come back because the actual fight wasn't about the deadline. It was about who gets to decide or who gets to be seen. That's why your last conflict mediation didn't take. Your resolve went to the wrong layer. Before we go any further, I want to point you to an assessment that I've built. It's called Dr. Kara's Leadership Origin Profile. It tells you exactly how you're showing up as a leader right now, including how you handle conflict. Because how you avoid or engage in conflict didn't start with this job. It started in the family that you grew up in the friend group that taught you the rules, or in the first boss who made it unsafe to disagree. Link is in the description below. Take it now, you could take it later, just take it. Now let's talk about why managing around conflict is costing you more than conflict itself. Conflict that doesn't get named gets paid. Not just at the negotiation table, it gets paid in attention, energy, trust, and retention. Let me show you the actual ledger. Every unaddressed conflict steals attention from the work. When two people on your team aren't speaking, the people around them are spending mental energy managing the temperature in the room. They're choosing words carefully in the shared meetings. They're avoiding cross-functional collaboration that should be obvious. They're routing information through you to avoid going direct. That's not just two people in conflict. That's a 6-person tax on every project they touch. Cost 2. Your team is watching what you do, not just what you say about conflict in your one-on-ones, what you actually do. Every week the obvious conflict goes unaddressed, your team learns something. They learn that the hard things don't get handled here. They learn that the manager hopes it will resolve on its own. What a joke, because we know that's not going to happen. They learn what's actually allowed to fester. And when the next hard thing shows up, they don't bring it to you because they already know what you'll do, which is not a dang on thing. Cost 3. High performers leave first because they can. They have options. Their networks are warm and they don't go into spending their time and best years in a team where unresolved tension is the default operating temperature. People who stay in that environment are people who can't leave, which is the category of person, but not the one that you wanted to retain. Conflict avoidance is a quiet talent strategy, just not the one that you would have chosen on purpose. Gallup's workplace research found that daily emotions like anger and stress remain elevated for levels at a significant percentage of the global workforce. And managers are sitting at the exact pressure point where these emotions either get processed or pushed underground, which means your team's emotional climate is largely your call. Not because you can control what they feel, but because you can control what gets decided, what's surfaced, and what stays buried. Avoiding conflict is like trying to keep both feet planted when leadership requires a pivot. So how do you actually do the conversation that you've been postponing? There are 3 moves. Each one builds on the last. Move 1, name the pattern, not the person. Move 2, separate the position from the underlying need. And move 3, structure the conversation before you have it. Let me walk you through each one. Name the pattern, not the person. Most managers try to fix conflict by fixing a person. Anna is being difficult. Marcus is being defensive. Paula is being short. That framing is a trap because once you've labeled one of them as a problem, you've already lost the room. Instead, name the pattern between them. I'm noticing that decisions involving both of you have been taking 3 times longer to land than they used to. I'm noticing that one of the 2 of you are routing communication through me instead of going directly with each other. I'm noticing that the project handoffs between your teams has been slipping for the last 6 weeks. The pattern is observable. The person is the interpretation. Lead with what you can see, not what you've concluded. Move 2. Separate the position from the need. In any conflict, each person is taking a position. We need to ship by Friday. We need another week. These are positions. Underneath every position is an actual need. Maybe Friday matters because someone promised the board. Maybe the extra weeks matter because the quality risk is bigger than the timeline cost. The positions look incompatible. Your job in the conversation isn't to pick a position. It is to surface the need underneath each one. The question I use is pretty simple. Help me understand what would be true if you got what you were asking for. That question moves the conversation from positions to needs, and needs are negotiable in a way that positions never are. Move 3, structure the conversation before you have it. Walking into a conflict conversation without structure is how the conversation goes sideways. Here's the structure I want you to use. First, the frame. Open with why you called the conversation and what success looks like. I want us to leave this room understanding what's underneath the friction so that we can move differently going forward. Second, the observation. Share the pattern that you've been seeing in observable language, not interpretation and not labels. Third, listening. Ask each person at one time what they're seeing from where they sit. Don't let them respond to each other yet. You're just collecting data. Fourth, the surfacing. Once both have spoken, reflect back what you've heard underneath their words, not their position, their need. Fifth, the agreement. Don't leave the room without one concrete change in how the two of them will work together moving forward. Specific, time-bound, and reviewable. 5 steps in order. Don't improvise. The conversation you've been dreading is a lot less scary when it has shape. I remember when I had to lean into a conversation, one of the things I did to structure it was to make sure that I leaned into what I knew about the person and what could be at risk if I leaned into the conversation from both perspectives. I also had to lean into what was at risk for me. Was there something I didn't want to be seen as or viewed as that got in my way from having the conversation? The one piece of this structure that people often skip is step 4. You name what you used to do wrong before you learn to structure conflict conversations. Here's what shifts when you stop avoiding. Here's what nobody tells you about handling conflict directly. It doesn't damage the relationship, it rebuilds it. The team members who have had hard, structured, honest conversations with you under your leadership trust you more, not less, because they finally saw you doing the thing that every other manager was afraid to do. Hold the room while the truth gets named. And that's leadership, not the easy version, the actual version. If you're already thinking about the conversation that your team needs to have this week, I want you to point to one more thing. It's called Dr. Kara's Virtual Mind. It's me on demand, trained on every framework I teach, and it's available the moment you need it, 24/7. You can walk through your specific situation with it, who said what pattern you've been seeing, and what you're actually afraid will happen, and get real coaching responses in your own time. Especially the part you don't want to say out loud. The link is in the description. You lead well. Now lead as yourself. I'm Dr. Kara. Connect to yourself first and then elevate and expand for those you lead. Until we connect again.